I would like to introduce our first speaker this evening, Dr. Sharon Lauricella. Sharon is Associate Professor with the Program Director in the Faculty of Social Science and Humanities at UOIT in Oshawa. She holds a doctorate degree from the University of Cambridge in England and a Bachelor of Arts from Wheaton College in Massachusetts. Sharon's research focuses on digital feminist identities and gender issues in social media. Sharon has been recognized for teaching excellence, having awarded the UOIT Teaching Award twice and the Social Science and Humanities Faculty Teaching Award. She teaches courses in communication, ethics, public speaking, nonviolent communication, and special topics in communication scholarships. Sharon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. That was a lovely introduction. And I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me tonight and for everyone for coming here. A special thank you to my family and my friends and my colleague, and special welcome to my students who are here being awesome. You get extra credit, and you get extra credit, and you all get extra credit. You all get extra credit. So thank you all for showing up here tonight. So I want to start tonight by acknowledging that the Me Too movement is actually not really new. The movement took hold on social media in 2017 after a series of accusations against Harvey Weinstein. However, the movement was an initiative over 10 years ago by a woman named Tarana Burke. And she's an activist from Harlem. And she launched the movement to help underprivileged women of color who were affected by sexual abuse. And then Alyssa Milano kickstarted the social media campaign with this tweet in the fall of 2017, and she invited people to make responses to that tweet. And you can see here that just the day afterwards, there were over 66,000 responses to her tweet, which really shows how significant the impact of this was. And when Tarana Burke started the movement, she did it because she believed that Me Too really wasn't all that important as a viral campaign, like something that was going to take over the world. For her, it was more about survivors saying, I'm not ashamed and I'm not alone, and for supporters to say, I see you, I hear you, I'm with you, and I understand you. And equally importantly, Me Too places blame on the perpetrator and not the victim, right? So this was really important for her. And then you can see here a few of the men who were accused of sexual harassment. There's more: assault, misconduct, or rape. And Harvey Weinstein was the first, not the first man, just the first in this whole movement in 2017. And then extending through 2018, it's really become a movement. And some people call it a revolution. And I really would agree with that it really is a revolution, especially with what we're seeing in contemporary days right now. And there are a few things in common with these men. And we'll see on the next slide. They start by saying, I'm really sorry, but, and there's always this but at the end, right? They say, it was a different time. It was, it was so long ago. It was before. And then they say, everyone is doing it. Everyone was doing it. I was just like everybody else. And then they say, well, it was just a joke. I was just kind of kidding. Or I just really didn't mean it. I didn't mean any harm. Or no one got hurt. It's really, what's the big deal? It didn't really mean anything. It was just kind of a joke. It wasn't important. And the reason these excuses continue to come out the way they do is because we live in a system of rape culture. And you say, what the heck is that? That sounds really scary. And you're right, it is really scary. And it means that rape is normalized in our culture. And you might think, no, I don't think rape is normal. I don't think rape is okay. It's totally not okay. Rape is totally wrong. But consider that rape culture is part of our overall system where, you know, women get catcalled or women get called out, or women are objectified. And we kind of think, oh, well, women must like it, and men kind of just do it because that's sort of how they are. That's, you know, people, that's just how things go, right? So, you know, men do it, women are supposed to like it, and women are objectified, and we live in this reality every single day. And another aspect of rape culture that I want to highlight is blaming the victim, and we see a lot of this these days. When someone gets raped or assaulted, people say, what do people say? Any of my students, when someone gets raped or assaulted, what do people who don't understand, what do they say? What was she wearing? Yeah, what was she wearing? What else do they ask? Was she drinking? Yeah. Were you drunk? Well, how drunk were you? What were you wearing? Did you fight? Did you fight back? Did you fight back hard enough? Well, you must not have really wanted him to stop if you didn't fight back that hard, right? So another problem is that there's no consequences for this behavior. Like, look at R. Kelly. He was in the slide before this one. He married an underage child. He ran an abusive sex cult. I'm not making this up. He abused numerous children, including underage girls, and he's still one of the most successful rap artists. There's no consequences. Louis C.K. is back on the scene, and he's had almost no punitive issues at all. So what about this? Like, we teach girls and women not to get raped. We tell them, well, you should dress properly, you should cover your shoulders, you should dress conservatively, don't expose your body, rather than teaching boys and men, don't sexually assault girls and women. And what a novel idea. Wow, we could teach boys and men not behave badly, and we could do that rather than making women and girls responsible for boys and men's behavior or for their misconduct. So I want to talk about a particular social media event that will give us a little bit of levity here. Kate Harding is a British feminist and activist, and she posted a tweet, and she said, I'll read it if you can't read it in the back. She says, I'm really sorry for all the times I stabbed men, like just a little bit in the place I worked before, and now I've gone to counseling and I stopped stabbing men. And she says, her next tweet was, my childhood was bad. I barely even really stabbed them, sorry, and some of them are actually lying about it. I didn't really do it. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm gonna spend some time with my family. Now, this is made up, clearly. So this isn't really true. She did it as a spoof, right? So this is a spoof, and it just echoes back some of these hollow and disingenuous apologies that we see from men. And this tweet absolutely took off on social media. And it took off for two reasons. One, because it's funny. There are a few laughs in here. It's funny. And second, it makes sense. It makes sense, and it's funny because it turns the whole thing inside out and backwards, right? What if a woman said the things that some of these men are saying? We realize how incredibly absurd it is. And I'm an academic, and I'm a gigantic nerd, and I practice qualitative methods. So I took to analyzing what happened after this tweet went out. And it's so fun. Wait till you see. It's so cool. I'll show you the next slide here. People responded to her tweet. And are you sure they didn't like it? Well, maybe they just like the attention. Or, well, I naturally want to stab men. Maybe men just shouldn't come to work if they can't handle me stabbing them. Or, well, men like dress like they want to get stabbed. You know, those cargo pants, those are really like sexual, you know? So what these tweets mean is that our culture believes that women actually like it, and that it's men's natural instinct, and that women act like they want to be raped or assaulted, and all of these are obviously not true. And in our next slide, I'll let you read that for a moment. The first tweet shows that when we talk about rape and assault, people believe that it's the woman's fault because she makes herself vulnerable. Like, well, if you were alone with someone, well, what do you expect? Certainly it's going to happen, right? Again, that's victim blaming. And then in the second tweet, oh, woe is me. Our culture's gone down the drain. All women are sluts and whores. Oh my gosh, cover ourselves up. Everybody go back to church, right? So that's kind of what this second tweet is saying. And then in our next slide here, this woman says, well, they kind of invited me to do it. They let me stab them. It was so enticing. And then the second one, this is my favorite, because this harkens back to Donald Trump's comment about locker room talk, right? So they're saying, well, I stabbed a dude in the crotch, but that was just yoga studio talk, right? So it's really bringing the whole thing inside out and backwards. And if a woman says these bizarre things like it's locker room talk, it just doesn't fit, right? And then in the last tweet, she says, well, some men, they get really hammered and then they wake up the next day and go, oh my God, I was stabbed. And they're saying, that alcohol is not an excuse, right? Just because you were drinking doesn't mean that it's okay. So I want to leave you tonight feeling empowered and educated. I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, we live in this terrible rape culture, which we do. I do want you to know that. However, I want you to feel empowered and not sort of a woe is me, now what do I do? Oh my God, I need to change the world. So I want to encourage you to be a rape myth buster. Myth number 1 is that rape is normal. Everyone's doing it. Donald Trump did it. It's just part of our culture. And you can see in these tweets that are coming up next that, everyone was doing it. That's not an excuse. First of all, it's not true. And second, it's not an excuse. And just because people are doing it doesn't mean it's right. And the truth here is that rape is not normal. It's not okay. And that's the first rape myth that you can bust. And the second one is that victims ask for it. And there's a tweet here that illustrates this, that, if he didn't want to be stabbed, he shouldn't have worn his cargo pants, or he should have worn a tie and closed himself up, right? So the truth here is that victims never ask for it, ever. And what people wear is never an excuse. We could all be walking around here in thongs and no one should be raping each other just because we're all scantily clad. Doesn't make a difference. So what people wear is never an excuse. And then the third that I want to leave you with is that biological essentialism is to blame. And I will tell you, the term biological essentialism, if you bring the term biological essentialism to a party, you're going to be the coolest person there, okay? Totally. And students, it's the best. You go to parties and you bring out the biological essentialism, and people are going to want you for the rest of your life. Biological essentialism means that men are just hardwired to be sexual. It's just inevitable. That's the way men are. Well, it's not true. That is not true. Certainly there are some differences between men and women, but men are not hardwired to sexually assault people. That is not an excuse, and we have to ditch that in our culture. So there's some tweets here where this woman is saying, well, if I was alone with a man for lunch, well, of course I was going to stab him. So it's kind of like, if you go out on a date with someone that you owe them sex or something, well, no, this biological thing is not an excuse, and it's not rational, and it's not okay. So biological essentialism doesn't work. Instead, I'd like you to get rid of these destructive phrases and this destructive stereotyping. Instead of boys will be boys, men will be men, how about boys will be nice people, men will be awesome, men will be helpful, men will believe women, right? So we got to get rid of these destructive phrases in our culture. So I'd like to leave you with some takeaways for tonight. First, that Tarana Burke started Me Too 10 years ago, that Me Too is not new, that we are indebted to this movement that started with women of color, and that we owe that acknowledgement to them. And then second, an apology is not an excuse, and an excuse is not an apology. Those are two different things, right? And third, you're going to see rape culture and rape myths now that I've kind of shed a little bit of light on. There's tons of them. I've really only highlighted 3 or 4 tonight. Now you're going to see them everywhere. And for that, sorry, not sorry. You're going to see them everywhere, right? You're going to see victim blaming everywhere. You're going to see, excuses everywhere. And finally, I'd like to leave you with the notion that you can end rape culture in your own family, in your own classrooms, in your workplaces, with your friends, in your friend group, however you communicate with people. You can be an agent for change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed the analogy and the myth busting as well. And I think that we have a question. Last week, a new hashtag started trending, the "Why I Did Not Report It." Can you speak to the complexities and nuances involved in making a claim and coming forward?
That's a great question. I think it's really important right now because that hashtag only just came out in the last week or so, and also what's happening with the Supreme Court appointee Brett Kavanaugh and the debate in the United States. So one of the things I was thinking is that when is it acceptable for a woman to come forward? If a woman comes forward when she's young, people say, oh, well, she just doesn't understand. She's too young to know. You know, people make these excuses like she can't be believed, she's too young. But then if a woman comes out with an accusation later when she's 40, even if the accusation is 30 years old, well, she's bitter and she's angry and she's washed up. Well, in that case, like, when is it acceptable for a woman to come forward? You know, this leaves women in the balance, like, I can't make a report soon, I can't make a report later. And then if we report a man when he's young, it's like, oh, we don't want to ruin his future. And then if we report a man when he's older, it's like, oh, well, it was a different time. It was a long time ago. It doesn't really matter. So we have these excuses, and this is why, women don't report. And I think some of my colleagues will talk about the more navigating the system and more physical challenges later tonight. For me, it's more about the social and cultural reasons for that challenge.
Thank you. That's right. That's wonderful. I think we're seeing that as well, and I think not only seeing that I'm not alone, but also that I'm believed is a huge message that we're seeing over and over